Happening, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Hexco. I see the chat is already blazing this morning too. I mean, we're a few minutes late, but that's how we do it. We do island time here at the RHMax channel. No need to rush, no need to hurry, especially when you got a real life and plenty of cool stuff to do and all those things in the morning. It's morning time, by the way, where I'm at least. Don't know about the rest of the world. It could be evening time. It could be even earlier morning, but we are here and we have Bloobum. And unfortunately, Markable, aka Proof of Beard, couldn't make it on this one. He was supposed to hold down the HEX fort, but I think Bloobum is more than capable of doing that. So we're gonna talk HEX, Hedron V2, and we're gonna get people excited again, get the people going. We're gonna get them excited again for all this stuff because even though it's a bear market, there's plenty of stuff to talk about. It's one of the things. This is the time. That's why I've been doing Security Week 2. It is the time to prepare for what could never come again, the bull run, but what some people believe may be cyclical and may come back around. UFO is here. Appreciate you, UFO. Also, Glazing Hexagon, Australian. Shout out to our friends in Australia, holding it down over there. How RHMax is wearing fluffy slippers, eating blueberry muffin. I ate French toast this morning. So that's close, I want to say. I had blueberries, but I didn't even put them on it. I could have put them on it for that. I'm wearing no shoes, as I normally do. Usually no socks as well. Got to keep those. Depends on the climate, really. You know, in the summertime, yeah, usually I'm less socks. In the wintertime, maybe some socks, but also can still get too hot. So I got to open the window sometime or just turn the AC or heat way down. Anyways, I'm prepared, if that's what you're asking. I'm prepared for this stream. And the 505 security AMA coming up, Papa Boner is going to be on that in a couple hours as well, around 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern. So Russ is here. What's happened, man? What's happened? Yeah, UFO was talking about. He always does the if you want the facts, watch Bloobum and RHMax today. And I saw somebody doing a hashtag Max Facts the other day. I was telling UFO, and I think UFO might have inspired him. So, anyways, no pants. I do keep those on most of the time. However, would you ever know? But you know, I'm usually pretty honest about my clothing here. Be real honest right now. I got a Hedron shirt on. Boom, got it for the stream. I'm ready to rock and roll. So is Bloobum. Welcome back to the show, Bloobum. How's it going?
Hey Max, I'm very, very good. No shoes on. Do have pants on.
Do you have pants?
It's probably my normal modus operandi.
If you didn't, that'd be okay too. You know, you're not, as long as you can, whatever you're showing on screen is what your attire is. Anything else doesn't really matter. So it could be anything. Just like Richard, have you seen the documentary, by the way?
Have I seen documentary?
Yeah, the Richard documentary, Highest Stakes.
No, I keep missing it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Because there's a scene, it reminds me of that where they're showing him backstage during all of the streams, and he's wearing like a really nice, you know, shirt or button-up shirt or some kind of, you know, fancy stuff, and he's just got like shorts on or almost looks like boxers. I don't want to say boxers, but it looks like just very casual shorts, and it's pretty funny to watch that. So, anyways, I thought of us perhaps doing that too. I do have shorts on. I'll say that. Anyways,
didn't we see in the SEC indictment that he was in Finland? They think he's in Finland, so he's in shorts in Finland. He must have good heating in his house, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, it gets pretty cold over there. I didn't even have I even read the full thing yet? Did they say that? Did they talk about location in that one? That's interesting.
Yeah. I I've read it somewhere that he's in Finland. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the indictment. Or whatever you call it, SEC complaint.
I could see that. I mean, not indictment, complaint. But yeah, I could see that. I think it's always been suspected in Nordic countries or up north somewhere over there in Europe. Norway, it's been floated around. Malta, also somewhere in Europe, and then Finland. I can see that. They have good internet. I always think it's a place with good internet and the ability to have security controls and stuff. And I imagine they have some Finnish castles over there too. So there's that. I can see that. Oh, you're can't hear you. switch your mic or unmute it.
No, I took off the headphones because there was a bit of a delay. So, Finland has very good privacy laws as well. And there was actually a case where the CIA went over to Finland to get the WikiLeaks servers, and the Finnish minister in charge of that basically kicked them out of the country at the time. I don't know what their government is like now, but because they're kind of joining NATO and stuff, so I'm not sure whether that's changed or not. But they were not very good privacy laws for a while, so that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, for Richard, if I were him and I were looking for a home base, like good privacy laws, the ability to have the stuff you want, security concerns, stuff like that. Anything, all those would be taken. Internet, of course. Can't live in the middle of nowhere. I think Europe broadly has pretty good internet. I've heard, at least anyway. So I could see Finland. I have no idea, but that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
I was kind of surprised. I thought he would want a more social kind of, I don't know how big Helsinki is. Maybe, I guess it's a big city with lots of partying that could be done there. But I always pictured Richard at some place close to lots of parties.
Well, he talked about the museum. Didn't he mention, wasn't that supposed to be in Oslo, or what is the Copenhagen? Yeah, Copenhagen, right? I thought, I don't know. That's what I always assumed. It was closer to that side, to the western north instead of the eastern north. But that's interesting, especially with. Yeah, I wonder if that's changing with. Well, I don't know. We don't want to get into geo-macro political events, but the Finland's looking more interesting these days with NATO and the Russia stuff going on, and I wonder if he's reconsidering that at all, or if. To talk geopolitics with RH, that'd be interesting conversation. I don't think he talks much about it, or even in the past before too. So, anyways, HEX and Hedron. What's what have you? How can we start this off? Because Blue was supposed to, or not Blue, Proof, Markable, Beard, whatever you want to call him. He was supposed to join, and he wanted to very passionately talk about HEX for a while. So how can you talk passionately about HEX to us, and tell us what is something that just interesting to riff on for a little bit, because I want to get on the Hedron V2, but I really want to get a sense of HEX right now, and I think I just want to talk more about it because I feel like it's been in the backseat a lot with PulseChain going on, and people are just getting less interested for one reason or another. I mean, there's a lot of other coins out right now too, but what have you seen that's given you giving you inspiration, or giving you say, hey, we're going to be in this thing for a while with HEX, or is it just the macro? Go in whatever direction.
One thing that I've been kind of thinking lately is that, just in terms of the price of HEX, even if we just look at it in terms of on Ethereum, when I first got into HEX, it was at about 1/3 of a penny, and regardless of what PulseChain is at the moment, the HEX on Ethereum has kind of come back. It's done that full round trip. It's gone all the way up to 56 cents and come back down to 1/3 of a penny. And I remember a lot of us at the time were saying, look at the kind of, even if HEX remains at this price, you can still then make all of these calculations about how much you will get from staking. And it still makes it highly incentivized to stake long term. Now, obviously, we don't know what the price will be in years to come. And, we've gone this huge kind of journey of being in these mad gains, and now basically being back to where we started. And a lot of that also doesn't take into account all sorts of things like the airdrops we got along the way, or the fork of Pulse, or if you did things like LPing or anything like that. But just in terms purely of staking HEX, you've still made money if you got in back then. I guess where it, and so it's still, you can sort of do those calculations about how much you're going to make. And the mad gains still could come because the price is so volatile, obviously. But if it just stays the same, I think that's a really good kind of way to look at it. Like, because if you are staking like 10 years or whatever, you're getting still like around 40% APY. And so over 10 years, that's a hell of a lot. And so even if the price does remain the same, you're looking at some pretty fantastic gains. And if you compare it to like, legacy finance, where people, you're kind of lucky to get 1 or 2% per annum. And that means you have to hold this thing, which is going to be devaluing in terms of its purchasing power over time. It's still a really, good proposition. But people don't look at that because it's crypto and because people are drawn to the mad gains and they're drawn to the dreams of riches, and what they can do with all of that money.
Is that just on your point of, it's, if it never went up, if it never went up again, still 40% APY, assuming you bought it around this point, is that the source of frustration though? Is it most people didn't buy it at these lows, so they're looking at their bag go down and thinking, oh yeah, 40% APY or whatever they're getting. If they're staking, let's say they're getting 12% or 20% or whatever it is, depending on their length, are they thinking, okay, that's great, but I didn't buy it at that time? Like, is that where a lot of the frustration comes from?
No doubt. Yeah, absolutely. The people who have bought in the last 1 or 2 years, who are massively down at the moment, and I guess the way to think of it is that because it's potentially such asymmetric gains is possible, you should be maybe a bit more, or everyone's got their own appetite for risk, but you don't need to necessarily put a lot away into it in order to get some of those massive gains. So I guess with the greater risk does, come potentially greater gains, but also potentially greater loss. And it really kind of is another argument for DCAing over a long period of time. And that's one of the things that I've learned from this journey is, like, whenever I onboard somebody, I always recommend DCAing, and they never do. They always just basically want to just go all in and let it happen, and they want to take that risk. But now I kind of like really try to push or emphasize the just DCAing and being conservative with how you're going into crypto, and to really take your time, because there's so many things now. I mean, Hedron and Icosa are another classic example where, like, you can't just find out about crypto and then find out about HEX, and then, like, there's so much to learn in order to make better assessments for yourself. And so take your time to learn it. And, DCAing is good for the risk mitigation, but also to give yourself the time to learn. Like Icosa and Hedron are already difficult to explain to new people coming in. We've now got, the version 2 is going to be coming out. I think one of the things is Alex wanted to make it easier in a sense, but in order to get fully kind of like knowledgeable about it, you kind of have to know the history. Like, you have to know the history of where HEX came from. You first have to start knowing what Bitcoin is and how that became popular, and then what Ethereum was in terms of a reaction to the strangling of Bitcoin development, and then what HEX was in terms of a response to why Richard made it. And similarly with, like, where did Hedron came out as a way to give further advantages or incentivizations to staking HEX. And now we've got the fork, which kind of destroyed Hedron and Icosa to an extent. Not destroy, that's the wrong word. It's way too heavy a word. But it definitely like was quite detrimental to the Hedron and Icosa prices and their marketing. It's marketing. But now we've got this version 2 coming out, which is hopefully going to make it easier. I know that was one of Alex's plans, and yeah, maybe that's a good segue to talk about Hedron and Icosa V2. Or if there's any I haven't been watching the chat, but I think someone wanted to ask a question before. If there's any questions, we can answer them as we go. And then I think it's a good idea just to kind of talk through the exact post that you've got up and just have a little bit more of a deep dive on like how that will affect the ecosystem.
Yeah, I don't have any questions particularly on Hedron or HEX right now, but there is one that's off topic, but could be interesting too with from Numerian. Do you think all stables will have to be successful on PulseChain for PulseChain to be truly successful? For example, PLUSD, I assume the other stables, the bridged ones or the native ones. Yeah, is there a way to frame that to get something good out of it?
Well, I think the more stables, the better. Originally I was never very into stables, and I was always like, no, they're not proper crypto. And I think people should understand that to an extent. But that's why it's great to have these new ones like, the PLUSD. That's the liquid loans stable, because that's a different type of stable. Although it does, rely on Oracle, but that's its only real kind of point of failure. Whereas things like USDC, like they can literally, the government can come along to them and say, we want this account frozen, and they can do that. So, but I think, having the more stables, the better, because I love competition, because competition means that all of these projects have to give a better user experience to people. And so I think that it's fantastic that they're all coming along. And I really love CST, the Coast stablecoin, because it is fully redeemable 1-for-1 for an actual US, dollar or whatever. Now they're in all sorts of different countries as well. So I think that's a really fantastic one to have, or to be able to use, or to have that as paired against something like, PLUSD. Now, the way PLUSD works is very different. That is backed by Pulse, and so at a minimum of 150%. And so if the price of Pulse shoots down, then people have the risk of being liquidated, but they still have the USD. So although it won't be completely beneficial for them, they'll still like it's another great alternative to have, and they'll still have the USD even if they do get liquidated or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a great kind of like economic system to keeping their tokens stable. And they're a fork of Liquidity, and we saw all of these other stables kind of like go off their peg. We saw Liquidity remain really, really strong through that whole time, and I'm pretty sure Liquidity has maintained its peg. So I think it's fantastic if there are all sorts of different stables, because in a way they're all a kind of point of attack, or a point of vulnerability. And and people will use the one that's the best and the easiest.
Well, more just in general, more successful projects means more economic energy in PulseChain, because people are putting money up to mint it or otherwise to back it, bringing that money into PulseChain, and that can contribute towards transaction volume and just the backing of a lot of other coins too, whether if it's Bridge, for example. apparently he's also talking about the PLs. So I guess Liquidity's coin got copied over too, I guess. But I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, it's not redeemable like all the other copies, especially all the other stable coins. So it could be some other trading play or otherwise, but I think USDL will be redeemable. It'll be functioning with liquid loans and stuff versus the copy of the other one.
Yeah, I don't think Liquidity would have worked because it was backed by, if it's backed by ETH, then the ETH is copied because there's 10,000x more PulseChain. That means that their stable is not worth $1. And so although all of those tokens would have been forked or copied over, they wouldn't be worth $1. And I don't think that Liquidity ever decided to support PulseChain because they would have to put up all the front ends and they'd have to have the working Oracle and all of that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, it may be a stable. Actually, I don't think it'd be a stable, a very volatile tenth of a penny or something like that. But yeah, the 10,000x definitely plays a part in a lot of stuff getting copied over, or the ETH getting copied over, things backed on that, and then all the other plays. So, anyways, I don't want to talk about stables too much, but I'll do that question. But we'll get into. Let's start off with Tofu369. He always has a lot of insight from time to time. Hedron and Icosa sucking. Alex should copy DNX, burn it all. Why? What do you not think? Why do you not think Alex would do that? And why do you think Hedron V2 is so interesting and it's going to either fix some problems or maybe it'll change some of the game theory even? Yeah, you want to go down that road?
Well, I don't know why Alex would copy DXN. There is already DXN on Ethereum, and they're releasing it on PulseChain, I think, next month. So there'd be no reason for him to just copy somebody's project. And also that burns Zen. So, what are they saying? So you burn Hedron and Icosa for DXN, for some equivalent of DXN. Yeah, no, I think it's completely different what they're trying to do. I still think Alex is, a bit of a genius, and he's come up with an amazing system, although complex for a lot of people to understand. If they take the time to learn it, it's for me, it's the most innovative new economic kind of system in the world at the moment. So let's go through this, what his thing is, and maybe if you just scroll down a bit, we just go to his points and we just talk through them one by one. Yeah. So so there's going to be a contracts released on Ethereum and on PulseChain. And what people can do is they can send their HSIs, which are HEX stakes, and they can turn them into HMIs. Or if they want to start up a new HEX stake, they can do it through those new contracts and call them HMIs. And HMIs are going to have some more functions available to them. One of them being that, apart from it being a HEX stake and being able to borrow Hedron and all of that kind of stuff, they're also going to be able to, there was a problem with some of the people who were wanting to airdrop to HEX stakers, and then people who had HSIs couldn't receive those airdrops because of the way the people had designed their airdrops. So all HMIs are going to be available for all future airdrops. So that's obviously just pretty positive. Also, they're going to be able to have multiple owners, so like a multi-sig kind of thing. So in order to end the stake, you might need 2 or 3 signatures, or 5 of 8 signatures, or something like that, which is another extra kind of ability. I'm not sure what the kind of like what situation. I guess if someone wanted to do a really big one, I'm not so sure about these having multiple people own something. I guess if you're an institution or some sort of organization and you wanted to own it, and you wanted it to not rely on one person, maybe in that scenario. or if maybe if you're a family, you wanted to own as a family, but I don't know. It's like on the one hand, like multi-sigs have there's positives and negatives about doing something in multi-sig. In the past, HSIs had to be tokenized first before you send them anywhere. HMIs won't need to do that. There's going to be straight up an NFT. You're also going to and then so let's go down to. So yeah, basically, and a few people have been asking this. HMIs are just the version 2 of an HSI. It stands for hex mining instance, because Richard went on that thing of calling them hex miners as opposed to hex stakes.
Is that what we settled on? We were not publishers, we're miners. I like it. I
Yeah, I still like stakes. I think stakes is clearer, and I just tend to use the word stake. I understand why Richard did it, but I think it's kind of it's better just to be clearer when you're calling it that, and then you have to explain why. It's just this whole kind of thing, and it's not clear for people wanting to understand things quickly, and when they're just first encountering this stuff. Like a stake, we know all that, what that means. And hex, a mine is like, what do you mean I'm mining? Well, you are, but it's not like a Bitcoin miner. It's a bit different, and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
A stake versus a miner. Yeah, I think it'll. When I think of mining, I think of hardware too. So it's kind of maybe a different paradigm for people to adjust to. A miner being software. You can have a software miner too. So that's that thing as well.
So yeah, so Hedron, there's going to be batch mint support. So you can be able to get the Hedron from multiple stakes at one time, which is obviously going to save on gas, and is also going to encourage people to mint their Hedron from all of their stakes. This is going to be interesting. Leverage borrow. So you're going to be able to, like it used to be that with HSIs you could borrow or get an advance on all of the Hedron that stake is going to make over its lifetime. Now you're going to be able to do that at anywhere up to a 10x leverage. So people are going to be able to, and that's actually one way you can short Hedron if you think it's too high and it's going to go down. And what you could do then is you could take this HMI and you think, oh, Hedron's really up in price. You mint all of the Hedron from that at a 10x leverage. And then you turn that into US dollars or whatever you're shorting it against. Then if the price goes down, you use some of that USD to buy the Hedron, and you can pay off that advance that you took or the borrow. So, and now you're going to be able to. In the past, it hasn't really been worth it, especially because the price of Hedron has been so low. But this is going to make it more enticing to do that. There's also the fee calculations have been reworked to support number 3. Portions of this are given to. I don't fully understand that one. I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about on that one. Do you know?
Which one?
Number 3.
Fee calculations have been reworked to support number 3. Support number 3. Is that
in the one above? Like if you just scroll up, is that number 3 of the one above?
Support number 3. Oh. So for multi-sig, fee calculation be worked. Okay, to support multi-sig, that would make sense. Because if it's multi-sig, then it was probably the previous one was probably relying on there only being like one owner or not multi-sig accounts. So
on this, what fee calculations does he mean?
Is that for the auctions?
Paying back a
Oh yeah, for the amortization schedule, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work with multi-sig. Where yeah, I mean they're obviously this is early days, and some of the questions I've asked Alex is he says just wait for testnet. He just recently tweeted that he's finished the HMI contract, so the testnets are going to be planned for I think Q1 of next year. So
bring it up real quick. Yeah, HMI code is complete, ready for testnet. Working on cross-chain tokens parts next. Yeah. And I replied, yeah, 16 more weeks. Yes. But yeah, but there is a HMI code. That's a big step. But again, yeah, I'm wondering. I said it tongue in cheek, but at the same time, it's like the cross-chain token part. I mean, that's the biggest new idea. So that could take some time.
Right. I don't know if that will be so difficult though. Like it's just basically like accepting a wrapped version as well as the native Pulse or Hedron. But anyway, I don't know about coding that much, so I'm sure it sounds like complex, and that that's why he's planning on doing 2 or 3 audits. He said, and so yeah,
that's the part. That's the part I think will take some time because just getting it correct, and it's never been done before. He said that before. So the new aspect, the more audits probably thing is what makes me think it could take. Let's say He said hopefully by the end of the year or something. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm thinking January, February. That's my best no expectations guess.
The other thing about the leverage borrowing of Hedron as well, that's going to burn a lot more Hedron potentially as well, because when people do borrows and they pay it back, whatever is paid back is that Hedron is burnt, and that burnt Hedron comes out as Icosa.
So it could be 10x more burning.
It's going to be I think it's going to mean more burning of Hedron, which means less Hedron, and which means more Icosa paid to those people who are staking Hedron or Icosa, or the Wattses.
I wonder if it's linear, like if it's borrowed 10x, because it would be 10x more. So it would be the repayments would be 10x higher. Of the ratio. Then okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we have the borrowing will have a proper amortization schedule, fees up front. And then they're going to do he's doing a few things to stop the bots buying up the stakes.
That was annoying. I'm glad that's happening.
So so auctions will have a randomized 24 or 7 in between 24 and 72 hours, and also the extension is going to be randomized, or is randomly randomized. That's interesting, actually. How do you do randomization in a Solidity contract?
Well, you can you can do pretty much everything. So I guess there is a time library there. Yeah, not a smart contract coder, but yeah, there's got to be a way to pull from randomness and generate some random number from it. Let's see.
Interesting.
Random number Solidity. Stack Overflow, our friend. Deterministic. You want to figure that contract options. Produce randomness option. Oh, interesting. So how does he?
So does that need an oracle, or is that there's something way in Solidity to do that? Is there?
Yeah, I take back what I said. Maybe the way is to either do it off chain with Oracle, or have I guess you could have a list of different ones that have been randomly generated beforehand, and you just pick from that list. That's probably how to do it. So you don't rely on oracles. So that's one way. Maybe he's just hard coded, like, hey, here's like, I don't know, 100 different ones that 100 different random things, and then so it just picks one, but nobody knows which one's gonna. But not if you randomly pick one. It's gotta be a function. Okay, so it doesn't generate randomness. All right, getting very technical at this point, but I'm curious myself. You cannot create truly random numbers. Yeah, obviously pseudo random determinant system. but you can pick one. I'm sure there's a way to randomly pick which random number. I think that would be the way to is not going to have an oracle for this, but again, I guess we'll see a lot more on testnet as well.
I doubt he would have an oracle for it, but that's because I don't think that he'd want to bring that into it. Like, he really likes it when you don't have to touch the outside world in any way.
I thought there was something that had oracles, though. I thought he mentioned there would be an oracle. He would need an oracle for something in this new system.
Oh, really? Right.
I thought during that conversation with Sloth, he said like he would need it for something, but it wasn't. Maybe it was the auctions. Maybe it was some parts of the auctions. But I can't remember. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But I feel like I heard him say that, but I can't remember which piece. But it wasn't some critical piece. It was just like, hey, we kind of need this to make this particular feature work. But it wasn't like I'm not sure if it's auctions or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when starting an auction, you can set the starting bids higher. So it used to be that you just had to pay the minimum, and that triggered the auction. But now you can actually start at a higher bid, and one of the reasons for that is also because he's put a fee on for bidding, so that people don't do micro bids, and that fee will also be going to the Icosa pools for distribution. So that's extra Hedron. It's given to the Icosa that's staked.
The most annoying thing about the auctions was the bots. Like, it was like, okay, I want to get this one, and I bid, and then they just like either snipe it or don't watch it at the end, but also you can't snipe it because it was like, it resets. I think that the timer resets near the end and all that stuff, and then so that part, and then also people just bidding like a little bit more, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it just made it. So I think what he's trying to do is,
like, I used to get into some bidding wars, and people, and you can tell with the numbers people were using, it was definitely not a bot, it was people, because it'd be like 369, 369, 369, 369, or 555, or whatever, or they'd put it up and buy an extra 0.5555 Hedron or whatever like that.
I know. I'm glad that he's taking steps to make it, to incentivize people to participate more, because that's the thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to. There's all kinds of good deals on Hedron auctions. I'm like, okay, by the time I get there, I bid, I win like 1 out of every 5 or 6, and then it's never even the ones I really want to win. I just kind of feel like I need to get a win at this point. So it'll be more fair for the people. I like that part.
Yeah.
And then this is cool. Number 9, he left it. It's save the best for last, huh? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's going to be super interesting. So let's say, and that's really going to bring you would think that's going to bring the Hedron on the Ethereum and the PulseChain prices to much closer parity, because let's say it was like drastically less on one chain, you could just bridge a whole lot of those tokens over and then use that to bid on an HMI on the other chain.
And in turn, I wonder if it'll affect the HEX and the unification on that, at least somewhat. It could have some effect for that too.
Yeah, they're kind of they're becoming a bit closer together already now, aren't they? Like, at the moment, HEX on Pulse is 0.0076, and on Ethereum, it is, where are you? It's about half, 0.0037. Right, so it's still half. Yeah.
Yes, that's going to add a whole other deal on just being able to arbitrage, bringing things closer, and just making it easier. Like Alex's Sloth conversation, I remember him saying, like, people think, why can't they do that? He was like, yeah, why shouldn't you be able to? You should be able to do that. Like, that's like a technical thing. We understand you can't, but for the average person, it's like, yeah, why can't I use Hedron on whatever train to bid on these auctions?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the price of Hedron on each chain, and they're becoming much closer. So on ETH, it's about 6.018, and on Pulse, it's 6.02.
Yeah, and the whole, the EHEX, PHEX, Hedron, like the E versus P pair thing, I think it gives some strength to the both going to be around if you start unify them in those ways, and where the whole argument is like it's so confusing for new people. It's one of the main points, at least. And if you make it less confusing for people by doing these type of unification things, maybe 2 is okay for even some of the skeptics.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation today on the on another stream. Like, do you think we'll ever see a HEX version 2? Like, somebody could actually do this for HEX as well, where they release a contract which accepted HEX, and then also the wrapped version, and so you could bridge over your Ethereum HEX to PulseChain and stake it there, or you could bridge over your or vice versa. But it would require a new version of the HEX contract. And then it's kind of like, well, if you're doing that, what other kind of like things could you improve about HEX? Like, I don't think it's anything that Richard would do. But then I was thinking, well, actually anybody could do it. Like, anybody could put up a contract that does something like that. And, you know, like maybe they try to make the end staking cheaper, for instance. Or
are you describing some of the Maximus projects? Go Key chimed in. No, I think there is a isn't there a forgive me, Gold Key. There was the combination where you could mint the it slipped my mind. Sorry, you guys got so many products. The one where it had the EHEX, PHEX.
Oh, checks.
Is that what it was?
CHEX.
Yeah. The cross chain, like the deal, like that. Okay, that's the one. So there is that. But just on HEX V2 though, I've talked about this before with Sloth on stream as well. Of like, I think Alex doing this cross chain thing where you can use it on both chains. If Richard or the dev team or whoever's making all this crazy stuff decides like that's a good direction for the future of HEX and stuff, I think it would have to be him. I think this, I mean, community projects we built around it for for different stuff too. But I wonder if Hedron's cross-chain stuff, if it comes out, it's successful and tested and all that stuff. I don't think it'll be anytime soon, maybe a year or two from now. It's been battle tested. Maybe Richard or otherwise see it works. If there would be a HEX V2, I could see that it being the unification of the 2 hexes on those 2 chains, EHEX and PX, being a primary feature. But I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, if it ever happens.
Look, yes, I don't think it will happen. It definitely won't happen anytime soon. But I just treat it as it's an interesting, like, you know, imaginary exercise. Like, what else would you add, or how would you change, if anything? Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe it's like, you know, there are people who think that HEX is perfect as it is, and that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yes. Check out Rowdy for a minute.
Very resistant to change.
I agree. HEX is HEX. I agree. However, if RH or the devs or whoever's making decisions up there in the sky that we have no expectations of, if they decide that it's better to,
and it would be a choice thing. Like the same thing with all of these changes to Hedron and Icosa. Like, you don't have to use this version 2 that Alex is making at the moment. You could just keep your original and use those original contracts. They can't be taken off the blockchain, and they're still going to go along and work as they always have done. And so if you're a kind of purist and you think, I don't want that extra contract risk and I like it what it is already, you could just continue using all of that stuff as is. So it's about choice rather than you know, forcing people into something. Yeah.
You want to quickly go before we wrap up on Icosa stuff and
yeah. So so what else? Staking is now called mining. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. So there was that error actually with the original contracts where it was going to be that you got a bonus depending on how long you staked, and so now he's going to fix all of that, and he's going to ensure that that bonus exceeds compounding. So rather than people kind of having to make all of these extra wallets and put them all in and compound away, it's just going to tighten all that up, and you're just going to be able to stake and leave it in there, and it's going to do. That's the best kind of option, rather than having to create a whole lot of wallets and keep churning them over. Also, this is really interesting because obviously there's a ceiling price for Hedron and Icosa, and and the ceiling price for Icosa, like if you can give an HSI and get a certain amount of Icosa, and if that Icosa is worth more than would cost to make that same stake, then basically as soon as it goes over that ceiling price, it just gets arbed back down. And so he's making it so that the amount of Icosa that you get from selling it to the contract is going to change depending on that price, that HEX to Icosa kind of ratio. And the Icosa you get as well is going to be put in some sort of automatic mining ladder. So you can't just basically arb it, because you won't have it liquid immediately. So that's going to mean that there's not going to be as much of a ceiling. It's gonna there's gonna be it's interesting, hey? It's like interesting to see how it's going to play out. And I guess we'll see on testnet a little bit more about how that works. But yeah, there's also something he's doing which I don't fully understand. We'll wait till we get to that. So yeah, this is it. It's going to create Uniswap V2 and PulseX pools at launch, so that let liquidity providers mine their Icosa HEX LP tokens for yield. Yeah.
Interesting. So does that mean the contract will create?
So it means that there's going to be, it's going to, I'm not sure where that's coming from. I guess where
there is a war chest. There's a war chest, right? Maybe, or maybe it's minting to. I don't
understand. Is it from the war chest, do you think? Where does the HEX come for those liquidity pools? That's what I can't work out.
I don't know. That's a good one. That there is some unknowns in this. Even it's a thorough explanation, but all these key points don't have a lot to them other than a sentence or two. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to take that one yet. But there will be pools. That's cool. Okay.
Maybe it's gonna just be a further incentive, because you know how like Icosa and Hedron never got any of that incentive token. So maybe this is his way of putting an extra reward for people who stake Icosa and HEX. So let's say you make a liquidity pool, you're going to get rewarded for having liquidity in there with Icosa.
I always thought some of these improvements would be competing or try to be like, hey, staking this is going to be more beneficial than LP. But now there's like a LP crossover deal too. So I really don't know what to make of it yet. I need more than one sentence, Alex. I know. More, please, sir. More, please. But yeah, it's fun to speculate in the meantime.
Yeah.
The biggest part, we want to hit on too, is don't worry. Stuff can be migrated. Not will be migrated. Can be migrated. So
so you can still use the old contracts if you want, but also it's good now, because if you've got stakes coming up and you want to chuck in for another 270 days or something like that, you can just go ahead and do it, and you're not going to lose out. You're going to be able to make that decision. That's a great question, Golkey.
Yeah.
I think that Hedron and Icosa was so wrecked by the fork that he has to do something, and I think that. So I don't know if I think people will automatically go to the V2. I think everyone will use it. I think that will be the social consensus. That's my guess. And I don't think you're not really fracturing by making a V2. Like, I don't think you're really fracturing it between the V1 and V2, but in a sense, it's kind of giving more. If some people stay on V1 and other people stay on V2, it's more choice. And we did see that sort of fracturing in when it happened with HEX and on the fork. Yeah, so I don't know.
Fracturing, but I was talking about this the other day. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was talking about this the other day on stream about how different factions around the ecosystem, around PulseChain, otherwise, as long as we can have different ideals, but as long as we have the same goals and we stay interconnected and we maintain these positive feedback loops between products or choices or otherwise, I don't think fracturing is. I think it can be a bad thing, but I don't think that it doesn't have to be. So if there's some people that stay with, dare I say Hedron Classic, or those that go for V2, then I don't know. And like, what does that do to the price of the stuff that people stay with?
It's something that we'll never know, because we'll never be able to do it like a double blind. They'll never be able to have a control group to test it. You know what I mean? And that's the only way you could really ever find out. Because I think
hire a focus group.
Yeah, I think there's also an argument that having more economic activity actually generates more economic activity. Like, I know that if you have if you imagine if you have a marketplace and there's only 2 things are being sold in there, then you're sure all the value is going to go to those 2 things. But if you have a multitude of things, like 100 things all being sold at that marketplace, then someone buys something and then they go and buy something else with something else. And having all of that economic activity is actually, and that human kind of trading or exchanging of value actually creates a greater overall value. That's what we see in economic systems. And so that's why, capitalism works better than socialism, because with communism, because it's like where you don't have the choice, there's no incentive to better the position. And so it's really the exchange of human value which is creating the economic value. And so having greater exchange of value, I think, in the overall is increases the whole system rather than, and it can do so exponentially, and so, it's an interesting philosophical question, but it's also one that we will never fully know the answer to. There's a lot of reasons that the HEX price has gone down, and everyone is kind of guessing as to what the reasons are. But in the end, it's just kind of it's this mass human consensus of what has happened.
They pretend to pay us and we pretend to work. When you said socialism, that came to mind. In that, yes, there's no good system. There's only better and worse ones. I think the trade-offs. Shout out to Go Keep for posting that the other day too, about the Thomas Sowell trade-offs. There's no good and bad. There's better and worse, and that sort of thing. Or people. Anyways, I'm not going to go on that. Last question though, because I just want to wrap up. Do we know if we need to be unstaked for V2 migration on Icosa and Hedron?
No, you don't. You that's what he just said. You can take those stakes and move them over to the V2. And so if you have liquid Icosa or Hedron, you'll be able to move that. If you have HSIs, you'll be able to move those. If you have Hedron stakes or Icosa stakes, you'll be able to move those.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to if you've got a stake on the Ethereum chain, if you'll be able to move it to the PulseChain. I'm not sure how that will work.
How much cross swap will there be? That's a good question. Anything else on HMI swap marketplace? Yeah, so the marketplace, touch on that real quick, and then we'll wrap up. Marketplace for HMIs and Wattses.
Yeah, well, that's really important, hey, because that's just that's the user experience that we really need. We were depending on OpenSea for a little while. And I think that he was working with some other people who haven't come out yet to help their marketplaces, but they still haven't come out. And so I think Alex sees this, like he sees his sort of site as the place to go to for all of your analytics and also all of your marketplace. He wants everything to happen in that one space. And I think that user experience is going to be super important especially for bringing new people on, making everything really clear, having really good information all laid out, understanding the range of what things are going for. You're going to have a choice, I think, whether you can actually sell your HMIs or auction them off as well. You're going to be able to do that. And so, yeah, he's got, plenty of plans, but plenty of work to do to implement all of that, obviously, as well.
HMI code is complete. Just to remind everyone, this stuff is happening, getting ready for testnet, and working on the next part. Who knows how long? I'm certainly not holding my breath until, honestly, I think, I don't know. I hope next year, the rest of this year, I'm learning. Maybe I'm laddering, maybe I'm buying, stuff like that. But boy, 2024 is what I'm looking forward to, I'll say. But let's wrap it up there. The rest of this year, what you have any plans? You have any things you want to do? You have any, I don't know, any ideas for what's coming up for us?
Listen, I've been really saved by LPing this bear market. There's tons of incentives to LP, and learning how to LP and how it works has especially as the in these big sideways kind of like moments that we've been going through, it's been really beneficial. So I think a mixture of staking your HEX, staking your Hedron, staking your Icosa, looking out for auctions, LPing is really a smart way to go. If you haven't learned about LPing, learn it. It's well worth it. And so I think Alex is amazing, and I think he's the most interesting and innovative. He's making the most interesting and innovative stuff in the crypto space at the moment. I think his ideas are on next level, and with that comes complexity, which is potentially like a barrier. But like as this stuff evolves, it's going to evolve, and where another thing I've learned from this big round journey of HEX is like it's that we're in a highly speculative space, and so make sure you have plenty of dry powder at all times. Make sure you have enough money to live your life, and make sure you do go and live your life as well. Like there's a lot of fun to be had out there, and there's although it's a really exciting space, and you want to be on top of everything, and it's really fun. We're basically the hobbyists of this space in a lot of senses, and it's also good to like get away from the computer and go out and breathe some fresh air and get some sunshine and have some new experiences.
You're literally describing what I'm about to do. I could talk to you for the next hour or so as well, but as you suggested, we should live our real lives as well, not just the hobbyist part on the internet, talking about all these fascinating products, which I love to do as well, obviously. Bloobum, great to see you, man. Glad to connect back with you and go through Hedron V2, something huge part. I don't think you understated at all how big this is going to be for the community, and how I love Alex as one of our top creators and devs in the community, and just building this stuff. Like the community's building it. Like I love RH, but it's like we're already here. What else do we need? We got everything we need. We just got to go do it now. So that gives me.
And thank you for having me on, Max, and thanks Gold Key and everyone else out there doing stuff for the whole ecosystem, and thank you, Max, for all this streaming you're doing. You're doing an amazing job, dude. And
Thank you.
I know that the community really all appreciate it. I know I appreciate it, and all the hard work you put in. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. I feel compelled. And I don't always get nice comments, but when I do, they help as well. So thank you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a part of this crazy adventure with us too, man. Definitely won't be the last time, and always love to have you on and talk through more than that. We had a lot of good stuff in the chat. We could have went a lot of different directions, but today you got your Hedron V2 walkthrough and also HEX commentary, which was great. If you're in the just joined, replay to the or go back to the first few minutes, replay gang, check it out. It's a great stream. So without further ado, Scivive and 5555, we are out.